Hello. Hello, police. Yeah, what's the problem, sir? We just drove down our farm track. Yeah. Go and feed our pheasants. We come across a Range Rover with 3 people in it. Yeah. It appears that they're dead. I don't know what's happening. Blood in the motor all over them.
And welcome back to a new video on the Essex Boys case. As always, if you are enjoying the content, please do give the video a thumbs up. And if you're interested in the Essex Boys case, or simply true crime in general, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below. And in this video, we're going to be taking a look at a police statement which indicates just how important it was that Tony Tucker, Tate and Craig Rolfe were killed on Wednesday the 6th of December 1995. Once I've read that statement out to you, I'm then going to share some of my own thoughts on why I believe that the approximate time of death put forward by the prosecution, as in just before 7 PM, is most likely accurate. The following statement is from William Theobald, dated the 11th of December 1995. I am married and have 2 children aged 30 and 23 years. I own half of the land of White House Farm and the bungalow called Rowens, which is adjacent to the farm on the main A130 main road Rettendon. There is approximately 11.5 acres of land attached to Rowens property. About 12 years ago I joined Progress House Gym, which is in Castle Lane, Hadley, Essex. I use this gym for the purposes of bodybuilding. During this time I met another user of the gym called Tony Tucker. I have trained with Tony in the past. I've collected him from his house to take him training. I would say in those days I regarded Tony as a friend. When I knew Tony, he was a carpenter living with his wife and I believe 2 children in Rayleigh, Essex. I am also aware that Tony worked for Nigel Benn the boxer and was controlling doormen for various clubs. At one time he had a shop in Romford selling bodybuilding equipment. He either owned this shop or was the manager. I remember whenever Nigel Benn was boxing, Tony would lead him into the boxing ring. Tony left his wife and drifted away onto other things. I have heard that he became involved in the drug scene, although I've never had any personal contact with drugs or ever seen Tony with them. I haven't seen Tony for about 10 years to actually speak to, although about 5 years ago I did pass him on the road in Hadley. We acknowledged one another and then went on our way. I believe Tony was driving a convertible XJS Jaguar. I'm still a member of the Progress Gym. I go at least once a week, but I've never seen Tony training. Since those early days, I cannot recall Tony ever visiting my home address or the farm. I've lived here for 30 years, but I'm sure he knew where I lived. Another friend who I've trained with in the past is a Paul Wheatley. Paul was friendly with Tony Tucker. I was Paul's best man at his wedding. Paul has visited my home on many occasions, and I would have assumed that he would have told Tony where I lived. I am also aware of a person called Tate. I may have unknowingly met Tate at the gym, but I have friends on Canvey Island who had their car stolen by this man. I am also aware of the name Tate through car dealer contacts again in the Canvey area. I've never been officially introduced to this man, and I am not aware of Tate ever visiting my home or White House Farm. Both my brother Peter and I are competent sporting shooting enthusiasts. We have both shot for England and have been able to introduce this facet of our sport into our livelihood. We run White House Farm shooting ground, which is as follows. The farm has a lake which is used for duck decoy and fishing. The farm also contains a pheasant shoot. Peter looks after this side of the business. I run the shooting ground, which is separate from the farm and contained in the 11.5 acres of Rowens land. This is a private ground which I supervise and run to give tuition and have a down-the-line and compact sporting setup. The shooting ground is set up for sporting smoothbore shotguns. I also have an arrangement where I can supply shotgun cartridges to my customers. I currently stock 2 types of cartridge. They are the Express 24 7.5 colour mauve and the Champion range from Kent cartridges sized 7.5 colour red. It is not uncommon for people who use my shooting ground to bring their own cartridges. I currently only shoot on a Wednesday, up to about 18-30 hours. On Wednesday the 6th of the 12th 95, the shooting stopped when it became too dark. I estimate the last shots were fired about 15-45 hours. I do have lighting facilities to allow us to shoot after dark, but on the above date it was getting cold and the last visitor had an interest in our lakes, so we went on to discuss my pond which is beside my home. I am obviously aware of the shooting incident which occurred on our land just off of Workhouse Lane. The last time I visited this area was on Monday the 4th of December when I walked across the land and up to Rettendon Hall at around 8 AM when I had a job to do for Mr. Foe, the occupier. At this present time, I have 3 over-under 12-bore shotguns and 2 rifles. Should the police wish to inspect these guns, I am prepared to hand them over. I should also say that having finished the shooting on Wednesday afternoon on the 6th of December, I remained at my home address all evening. I did not hear or see anything unusual. Okay, now the part of the statement that we need to focus in on here is the following. I currently only shoot on a Wednesday, up until around 18:30 hours. Now we know that the day that Tucker, Tate and Rolfe were killed, the 6th of December, was in fact a Wednesday, and according to the official version of events, they were killed shortly before 7 PM. Now, having been armed with this information, the fact that they only shot on a Wednesday, it wasn't like they shot on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Thursday, Wednesday, Friday, or whatever, it's one day a week. To me, this murder had to take place on a Wednesday. And what better time to commit the murder than shortly after the shooting would normally stop? Now, having read this and now understanding that they literally only shot there one day a week, which happened to be a Wednesday up until around 6:30 PM, it's pretty clear that this murder had to take place on the Wednesday. It couldn't take place at any other time. A lot of people have said, including myself, surely it wasn't, the greatest idea to do it in the snow or with poor visibility, or the fact that you may have left footprints which could have frozen in place for people to find the next day. Well, they didn't choose that, did they? They had to do it on the Wednesday because it all had to tie in with the normal sort of runnings of the shooting club. That's why the neighbours didn't report hearing anything, because it was normal on a Wednesday to hear gunshots up until around that time period. In my mind also, it completely discredits Billy Jasper's version of events and any real sort of theories that this crime took place around midnight or the early morning or any other time later than, say, 8 PM. It's quite clear when you put the pieces together here that this has been chosen for a specific purpose. Do you really think they would have gone out in those weather conditions, the icy roads, the cold, the bloody poor visibility, if they didn't have to? But they had to, didn't they? Because it was a Wednesday. Whatever the road conditions, whatever the weather conditions were on that Wednesday, it didn't matter. They had to go through with it on the Wednesday at rush hour, just after the shooting would normally stop. If you look at it another way, what purpose would it have served for Tucker, Tate and Rolfe to have been down that lane at midnight? What purpose would it have served anyone luring them down there during that time? You can say, obviously, it would be quieter during that time. There would be less people to possibly witness the murder. But when you look at the normal runnings of the gun club, you can see a lot of motive behind why you would want them there at around 6:30 to 7 PM. The shooting happens on a Wednesday. They hear gunfire. It's completely normal. It ties in with all the surrounding area. No one's going to call the police and report it because it's just a normal sound of a shotgun, which they always hear on a Wednesday. It all makes perfect sense. Whoever's planned this crime, whoever's committed this crime, certainly had a great knowledge of this gun club. Maybe the killer wasn't a member of the gun club itself, but they certainly had an associate who had a great deal of knowledge about the comings and goings of White House Farm and the shooting range. It also makes me question the telephone call, which was supposedly the telephone call to arrange the whole meeting for that evening, which took place shortly after 2 PM to Tony Tucker. Now, if you had gone to such lengths to choose this location for that specific purpose, that it had to take place on a Wednesday, it had to be after 6:30, but not too late on in the evening, why would that phone call to arrange the meeting only take place 4 or 5 hours before the murder itself? Surely this is something which was planned well in advance. To me, I get the impression that Tucker, Tate and Rolfe, or at least Tucker and Tate, knew that they were going down that lane way before the 6th of December. I don't really buy into the fact that it was this massive rush job. Okay, let's just get them to some random lane, have someone hiding in the bush and shooting them. Clearly, when you look at all the evidence here, this has been incredibly well thought out. So to summarise everything that I've just gone over, in my opinion, this is a clear plan to have the Range Rover down the lane just after 6:30. It had to be on a Wednesday. It didn't matter what the weather conditions were like. It didn't matter how easy the job was going to be. They had to be killed on a Wednesday after 6:30. To me, this is clear. This takes away any sort of narrative that Billy Jasper dropped someone off just after midnight. To me, and obviously this is only my own personal opinion, for me it doesn't serve any purpose to commit the crime after midnight. For me, there's a real motive here to get that vehicle down there just after 6:30 on a Wednesday. Personally, I believe this was an incredibly well thought out execution of these three men. Someone who knew the gun club, knew the comings and goings of White House Farm and the shooting range, or someone who was associated with someone who did. And as I just stated there, it didn't matter what the weather conditions were, although it was snowing, although it was sleeting, although the roads were icy, traffic was fairly congested and slow moving. It didn't matter. Regardless of the weather conditions, Tucker, Tate and Rolfe had to be killed on the Wednesday after 6:30, early evening time. Now, one of the things which I guess concerns me before we finish this video, or at least triggers something in my mind, is if this arrangement to meet at the lane or get them to the lane was done at the last minute, as we've been led to believe, then how likely would it have been that one of these three individuals pulled out at the last minute? What happens if they got there, Tucker was missing, or Tate was missing? It makes me wonder how long Tucker, Tate and Rolfe had known about this planned visit to the lane. Was this simply a call at 2 p.m. to say, we need to meet you later on to show you where this field is? Or had they known about this place for some time? Had they known about this visit for at least a few days? That way ensuring that Tucker and Tate were going to be there. Many thanks for joining me for this video. Very shortly you'll be able to see some other videos from the channel, including the Essex Boys playlist, which has all of the videos concerning this case in one convenient folder. If you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. I look forward to seeing you all again in the next video. Take care. Cheers.